Neena Perez, and this is Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. This show is created to discuss life topics and hopefully challenge and transform your thinking. Hey guys, this is Neena Perez, and this is Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. Thank you so much for watching. This show is created to discuss life topics and hopefully challenge and transform your thinking. So today I am so super excited because I have a woman here that I have been following and I am an admirer of her. And her name is Lakshmi. And she is an author and an international award-winning photographer. She was born in India and adopted by a Jewish family and raised here in the US as Rachel Beck. She is the author of Finding Your Way, When Life Changes Your Plans. It is a memoir of adoption, loss of motherhood, and rediscovering home. And I could not put it down. I couldn't put it down. So if you can't tell, look at all these stickers up in here. So I thank you so much for being here. Now, do you want to be called V or Rachel?
Oh, Rachel's okay. And thanks for having me, Neena. Thank you.
I'm so glad you're here. And I wanted to bring you on here because you have a fascinating story. You have been through quite a bit. And so I want to start off with just you introducing yourself to our viewers, just so they know a little bit about who you are, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty.
Okay, my name is Rachel Beck. I use the name V Lakshmi as a pen name. This is a common question I get, Neena. That was my, I don't know if you know this, Neena. That was my biological name, and I wanted to honor where I came from. So that's why I use the pen name V Lakshmi. My story is complicated. It's difficult.
Yeah.
You, being an orphan, my mom died 2 days after giving birth. I'm looking for a biological father. I was put into the home of the founder of the orphanage while it was being built, and that was in Tamil Nadu in southern India. And my journey started there. And then I was adopted by a white Jewish family, grew up outside Philly. And everything I'm doing, Neena, is to get back to where it came from. That's
Wow.
why I'm donating part of the proceeds of the book are going back to the orphanage. There's not one day that I don't forget.
Yeah.
And I've
Yeah.
been very blessed through my life by, the family, the opportunities. So it's important to me. It's important to me to leave this planet with a footprint of positivity versus negativity.
Yeah. For sure. I was reading that, and you were so gracious to your family as well, to your a Jewish family. I mean, you just talked about nothing about you just talked about how much you love them, how much you cared for them, how much they cared for you. Right? I mean, that is a beautiful thing. And I was reading, and of course, sticky notes all over the place. But I love something you said, if I can just read it.
Please.
You said towards the beginning, if you have never been a minority, try putting yourself in one's shoes once. You might learn a lot and will almost certainly cultivate new depths of compassion for people, fitting in something every human being wants, feeling loved and not judged. And I was like, wow, that's so powerful, because I don't think that we do that enough. I think we need to do that more. And especially in this climate that we're in, where everything seems so divided and so polarized, it is really helpful to remind someone to step into someone else's shoes. And you being adopted by a white Jewish family, I mean, you don't look white or Jewish, right?
Right.
So that must have been like a real, standout, and I love the way you said in your family didn't feel anything. It didn't, make a difference to you, right? I think it was when you started going to school that you started to realize that there was differences, right? How
Yeah,
did you deal with that?
well, I think my mom said it was like 3 or 4. I finally asked, like came home from preschool or something and said, "Why are you white and I'm brown?" Very
Right.
simple question for a 3 or 4 year old.
Right.
I still deal with it, and I've been giving talks
Mm.
on diversity awareness for 15 years, and I'll continue to speak about it. I've had 5 racist events since March. This one of the scariest last Sunday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I can't be silent anymore about it, Nina. I need people to, when I talk about walking into shoes, it's just being empathetic.
Yeah.
It's just
Wow.
saying, hey, I walk it out into the world. I put this like protective magic bubble around me, right? And I hope for the best. And it doesn't
Right.
happen. Some days it
Yeah.
doesn't, and due to the climate of the country, like you're talking about, it's like on the rise. And that's
That's
why
sad.
I
Yeah.
won't sugarcoat it on social media. I'll turn my camera on and say today was a bad day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I
And
can't,
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm listening.
no, I just can't be silent about it anymore. I've had some downright scary experiences.
And it's so hard already because there was something else you wrote about too. On top of being adopted, right? And on top of going through those racial events, even up to recently, right? You talked about how even the issues of adoption is something you are already dealing with, right? So you were talking about abandonment issues, separation anxiety, trust issues, need of acceptance, fear of rejection, being able to fully connect with someone. I was reading that and I'm like, wow, that's already a lot. That's already a lot, right? And to bring that, to take that on, and I know this has nothing to do with your family and the way they raised you. It has to do with the fact that we are different, right? That you are different. So you saw it and then you automatically, like, kids can be cruel.
Yes, the humans.
Yeah, humans.
So
You're right. You're
it,
right.
it
You're
my
right.
my issues with racism, because I went to a Jewish private school, right? So
Mhm.
we were all Jewish, so that identity, like I was fine, even though I was the only colored person in the school. I felt
Right.
very safe. It's when I went to public school, right? Public school and then high school. And then I ended up, moving to Florida, went to a very diverse school down there. The identity issues as an adoptee are huge.
They're
And
huge.
I've worked with, therapists do some of the things I've had to deal with. And they've all told me it comes down to the very beginning of my life. So you have to think about it, right? So you have no control if your mother dies. Then you have somebody who held on to you for a couple months, but then dropped you off to somebody else. And I'm trying to verify who that was. And I unlock pieces of the story every time I'm there. Stuff that I didn't put in the book, but I'm putting it in the second book.
Mm-hmm.
So you're passed around, right? So you've got one person, then the next person, and then you're adopted. So I had zero control over my life,
Right.
not whatsoever. But those issues of, I wonder, like, what could I have done wrong?
Right.
What did I do wrong? And then let me say the positive thing. Adoption is beautiful. It provides a lot of homes for people. And I wanted to write this from an adoptee's perspective because I've studied adoption. I minored in psych, minored in gender, took a whole class on families. And I would read the books, and I still research adoption. When I pick up a book and the book is not written by somebody who's adopted, I've already shut down. Not saying that the research isn't wonderful, not saying that's not a fantastic book. I can't emotionally connect because they haven't walked that path.
Right.
It's like me talking. Okay, so you're a chef. I'm not a chef, but it's like me here talking about cooking and this and that, and then writing a book on it. And you go, well, she's not even a chef.
Right.
How could
Right.
she
I get
discuss
that.
it? Mm.
Yeah, I think but there's something to be said about the human connection when you've been through something, right? I think people connect with you more, they look at you kind of side-eyed until you say, well, I've been there. And then they're like, oh, like then there's this immediate connection, right? Because in all humanity, right, all humans want to connect in some level, right? And if we keep dividing ourselves, we're not going to find that. I wanted to ask you what you would tell, like, what would you tell an adoptee, somebody who's been adopted, how do you start? How do you get through some of that? Is there something that you suggest or recommend for them to do to kind of just get through that?
Yes, a strong support system goes a long way. And I
Hmm.
credit that, I have 7 best friends, right? And God bless them all. I've grown up with all different stages of my life. My family, my mom made it very clear to me at a very young age, come to me if you have any questions at all. And being behind me, that's a fine line.
Yeah.
I have friends who adopted that their parents are also supporting them on their journey. And then I have other ones that they're nervous to tell their parents, hey, like, and they've called me, we've talked about it, that have come from orphanages in China or India. And they've said, scared because I don't want to hurt her
Yeah.
feelings, but
I get
still
that.
want to search. So if adoptive parents are creating that open line of communication
Yeah.
and saying, this is your life, this is your story. My story is different than my parents' story. And
Mm.
they've always honored that.
That's
And
great.
they've never called, they don't introduce me as their adopted child. I'm Rachel, their child, period, the end.
Right.
And that's the mistake people are making.
Yeah.
I had
That's
to
so
call,
good.
yeah, I had to call one of my friends out on it. She like introduced her daughter. This is my adopted daughter. And then when like a day later, I said, why did you do that? She's your daughter. And she said, well, how am I supposed to introduce her? She's your daughter.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. I have a stepdaughter, so I'm remarried and I have 2 stepchildren. And I remembered no one ever knew she wasn't mine, and everybody was like, oh, your daughter, your daughter. And then one day they met her mother and they were like, wait, I'm confused. And it's because I never, ever distinguished the difference. To me, there is no difference. If it's a gift to me to have that little life in front of me, it's a gift, right? That's how I see it.
Yeah.
And you,
And I just want to do it. I like, if
yeah.
you don't create that, right? And you don't create, I just told that divide. I just told my parents actually 2 years ago. I just shared this with them. I told them that for 18 years, I thought they were going to give me away.
Oh,
Not by anything that I did or they did, but it was always like in my mind. And my parents like, why didn't you say anything to her? You're like in your mid 40s now. Why didn't you say, we would have given you the security to know, hey, we're not going to return you.
right, right, right.
And I said, because it was, I had to go through it.
Right. Well, it was what you pointed out in your book, right? That fear of rejection, too. You already went through it as an infant, and you're like, well, if they gave me away as an infant, what are they going to do when I'm 13 and I'm like a raging lunatic, right?
Yeah.
Because teenagers are not that easy. Yeah, I totally get that. But you've been quite through a lot since the adoption, right? So I was reading your story about your endometriosis. That has been something heavy in your life, right?
20.
Yeah, you've been through a lot. And endometriosis is something that happens to a lot of women, and it's hard to deal with if you've never been through it, right?
Extremely hard. And I got diagnosed in the 90s, right? So the
I didn't
like
know much. Yeah.
right, it's changed so much. But it took me a long time to get diagnosed, to find somebody who actually, now it's like, women can get on, Google, you're talking just 96 I was diagnosed, something like that, year or two. But to understand, so now I'm using my voice for that too, to
That's
say
awesome.
this is what we have. I can't, I had so many surgeries for it to go through it. And then 3 years ago, it came back again. And I'm just saying, it's my medical disclosure. Everybody's journey with endometriosis is different. I'm just
Yeah.
sharing mine. Um, and I decided, made the decision to have a hysterectomy.
Right. And that's a tough decision. That's a tough decision. Now you have to, you almost have to like find your way through that. But you've already been through so much because your endometriosis was a big factor in your life. And I know that you ended up finding the love of your life,
Yes.
right? I was reading the story. I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. He sounds amazing, by the way.
Yeah. And we've been through, everything together.
Hmm.
And um infertility affect I try to tell people it affects men and women. I
Yes.
mean, and
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that.
it affects both genders.
Hmm.
And everything, and I will tell you that you won't believe what happened after I wrote the book. You won't believe it,
What's
Like,
that?
I will share with you another time. But you won't
Okay.
believe me.
Because the book is heavy. Like, but
You,
I do want the audience to know what happened, because I know that a lot of women deal with what you had to go through. And what I'm referring to is the miscarriage, right? Because you had to go through the endometriosis, and then through all of the infertility process that you went through, you did end up becoming pregnant on your own with your
yes.
husband, right? And that, as I'm reading the book, my heart is pounding because I don't know what's going to happen. Can you just take us through that journey a little bit, please? Because I'd like people to hear this.
Yeah, I was, got married. It was like immediate, like, let's have a family. Right. It had not, it had been a dream of mine
Right.
forever, like be a mom. Like that's like what I wanted to do. And like most people, you start and then you start to think it's not happening, it's not happening. It's that, you take a pregnancy test, it fails, take a pregnancy test, that up and down of
Mhm.
emotion. I can't explain to people unless you've been through it. So did all the treatment, didn't work, did, the medical treatment didn't work. And then miraculously, we did get pregnant. And it was huge. Like for me as an adoptee, I have a therapist in the family, and he said for me it was huge because of that biological connection for the
Right.
first time in my life.
Mhm.
And then 11 weeks into it, lost it.
Right.
And it was hard because I didn't and I just you're never prepared for a miscarriage, and that's something I'm using my voice too. On
Yeah.
Mother's Day, I put a post out saying to the miscarriage and infertility community, I know how hard this Mother's Day and Father's Day are very difficult for the infertility community. So I do that to honor them and say, you know what? You're not alone.
Right.
It is painful. I shared a ceremony I did that my therapist had taught me about, and because I need some kind of closure.
Yes.
And there are people who are working on this in the religious areas. They're starting to understand that there's a need to take people who have miscarried through the grieving process.
Good.
Yeah, so there are
Good.
people working on this. There's research being done. I was sent, like, literally, like, left the hospital and was just sent home. And
Yeah, there wasn't very much sensitivity to you at all, actually, except for that nurse that I was reading
oh,
about. Yeah.
bless her.
But the way the doctors treat it, or even like some people who don't know what to say treat it. Like I had a cousin who had a miscarriage as well, and it was very hard for her. I think she was like 4 months. And then uh, the baby had to stay in for a few days more before they, and I was just like, I can't even imagine. And nobody's ever brought it up again. Like it's like, and I'm like,
That
no, no, no,
you got and that's what people do, right? So I had
yeah,
one friend, she didn't talk to me, right? And
yeah,
and she didn't know what to say, Nina. And that, I mean, because now we're like really close again, but at that
yeah,
point, she's like, I was so horrified when I got the call
right.
that I didn't know what to say. So I
Mhm.
give people tips. And I would say every 6 months I talk about miscarriage, and I drop tips about like the tree, about
Mhm.
planting the tree in the back,
Mhm.
doing Christmas angels for people's trees.
Mhm.
The worst thing you can do is not say something.
Right.
That's even, it's like more, it's like you're not even acknowledging what happened.
Right.
And it
And some
was
people don't know how to acknowledge, but you're right. It's good that you're saying you're speaking to people about that. But I also love that you said the couple goes through it, because a lot of people forget that the husband goes through it too, or the partner. They go through it too. And you said something so powerful, like, I mean, I even wrote wow next to it because I just couldn't. You put here just a little snippet, page 17. It says Jewish people have a certain way to handle death, and it is through the very precise, um, and it creates a mourning period, the Shiva. And then you say There is no Shiva, no ceremony, no funeral. When exactly is the mourning period for losing a baby? Oh, how on earth do you mourn? That was like, oh my goodness.
And
Oh,
I've
right.
talked to rabbis about this. I had a rabbi in the show recently, and we talked about this. I said, and he ironically had been through miscarriage. The rabbi had been through miscarriages, and he was like, Rachala, we're gonna do this together. We're gonna work on this, and we know that there's a need for it. We're seeing this,
Yeah.
and you can't. You luckily because I had people who understood and had been through it. The other thing, Nina, you can do, it's so simple. Some people don't want to go to the house, right? So they'll ask, whenever I talk about miscarriage, people are like, Rach, give me tips. You can bring a basket over to them and leave it on the front porch. Things that helped me were really warm socks, a cozy blanket, some tea. You know,
Hmm.
a lot of like sitting on the couch. I was very, very tired from everything. A teddy bear, you know, something
Hmm.
that is
Comfort.
comfort. You
Yeah.
know, send a pizza over because maybe the couple doesn't want to cook that night. Maybe they don't have it in them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are things that you could. Because one of my friends, she said, "Well, what can I do?" She called me. Her friend having her. I said, "Drop a basket on her front porch.
Hmm.
Just do that and walk away." Ring
Yeah.
a doorbell. I said, if she doesn't want to see people now, and that's her choice,
Yeah.
just do this.
That's so
And then,
powerful. That's powerful. And that's powerful that you're giving them tools because friends want to be friends. Sometimes they just don't know how to deal with it, you know? So that's such a powerful tool. And I know that that is not even halfway through the heartbreak, right? So you get through finding your way back, you know, with your husband, you get through some healing, and then you decide you want to start a family, so you're going to adopt. And that's where I was reading yesterday when I wrote you, and I was like, oh my goodness, woman. And you talked about this adoption, and I'd like you to just tell us a little bit about that adoption, and what happened with the adoption, with
you
dreams.
know, went through the whole process. We do the home study, and you're cleared, and this and that. Wait, you're on that waiting list, waiting for that magical call. We got the magical call.
Mhm.
Hey, we have a baby. This is a perfect, you know, it's a match. And, you know, within 24 hours, I mean, you're up, gone, traveling. You
Mhm.
know, we met her, I fell in love with her, and it all fell apart in 24 hours. So,
Right.
and that's where my PTSD came from.
Yeah.
Because what the doctor explained to me was it was too many emotions that for a human to experience. And you know, we met her, I got to hold her, you know, at the hospital, fell in love with her,
Mhm.
and then everything didn't go good.
Right.
But I believe I can say it now, Nina, years ago, years later, she's where she's supposed to be, just like where I'm supposed to be.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, but that's such a hard trauma. Yeah. And I can imagine why you were diagnosed with the PTSD and the anxiety you talked about in the book, which is a very real thing. Very real. I went through that as well. And PTSD and anxiety is not somebody getting over it. You can't
thank
just get over it,
thank
you
you.
know? Yeah. And people just like, oh, just get over it. No, you cannot just get over it. Okay. It takes time, it takes help, it takes healing. And sometimes it you are healed and something can trigger it,
Yes.
you know, so you're good and then something can trigger. So you were diagnosed with PTSD and anxiety, right?
Yeah, and this
Yeah.
was a whole new thing. I never had any of it before, this traumatic experience.
Right. Oh, so even that's all new to you.
It was all brand new. I didn't have any of this.
Right.
So that's another thing I'm using my voice for is to end the stigmas around mental health. And I will
Mhm.
continue to use my voice because people say, well, you don't look like you have PTSD. Or
What's that
how
look like?
well that's why I'm trying to, yeah, that's exactly why I'm trying to say
Yeah.
this is
So good. Mhm.
based. And when people say to me, you know, I want to say uneducated comments about PTSD, or and they're not therapists, they're not psychologists or doctors. I'll say, well, I'm really happy you don't have it. So when someone says that to me,
Mhm.
and one of my closest friends I do, someone was doing the same thing to her. She has PTSD, And they were saying to get over this and that. I said, you turn around to her and say, I'm really grateful for you that you don't have this. I don't
Right.
wish this on you.
Right.
That's how I
That's
handle
good.
it.
That's good. And it's true. You don't want anybody to have that because it's just awful. It's an awful feeling. It's awful, right? But I know that you have gone through. See, I always say through because through to me is so important. That word through means you're getting through, you know? And I know that the PTSD, anxiety, your miscarriage, your mishap with the adoption and all that can really weigh heavy on a human being. And I reached a part of your story where you went back to India
Yeah.
and you were walking the streets and the woman you were with says you have children, you have a family because oh, I was boohooing
Oh, and
last
I will
night.
definitely remind me, and I will find a photo of her and send you, and you could see like the mountain and everything.
Oh,
And next time I'm there, I'll be doing like films and videos in there. But it changed my life. Like,
right,
you have to imagine this woman, like she's probably like 5'10", really tall, beautiful Indian woman, right? And she's wearing this gorgeous orange sari, and the mountains are behind her, and the sun's like, it was like behind her, like you could see the sun rays. And it was this first morning after I traveled, and she's touring me around, and she says, everybody, people, you can't get away from that question.
right.
You cannot get away from, why don't you have children? Why aren't you you
Yeah,
just can't, you cannot escape these questions like you can other ones.
so true.
So when she said to me, you have all these children and they will carry you in your heart and you carry them, and those are the kids I'm fighting for.
Right.
That's why you see me doing everything I'm doing.
Yeah. That was a powerful moment.
It was
Even
huge.
even for the reader, like you're a great writer because I was with you in that moment. And I was also with you in the moment right after that when you went to go visit the girls. So good. Like I wish I was there with you because I wanted to experience that with you. You're a great writer.
Thank you. I appreciate that. There was this moment where, as at the orphanage, where we're going from, like, I always stay there, and it was a bunch of teenage girls, and we're talking, just being girls, girl stuff. And then the kids had asked me about it, the first trip, not the second trip, but on the first trip, and that's when they said, "Rach, you have us. We're your sisters." I mean,
Yeah.
it was so beautiful.
And you're now making a connection back to where you were, right? So that has to be filling in your heart, right? Because you're seeing, and I think you wrote about that actually. You did
First,
write about that. They had the same skin and the same nose and the same eyes. And it's like you're finally like there's this link now, right? You're back home. I I don't want you to leave without letting us know how we can support you, like how can we see where you're going to speak next, or see where your social media channels are so we can subscribe and be on there with you, how we can pick up your book, because I want people to reach out to you and really connect.
okay. All right. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can do, it's like hashtag Rachel Beck. But if you just put my name in, you'll be able to find me. The book is on Amazon, and if you're getting the book, know that's going to a good cause. I mean, you're helping to make a difference in this world.
And I want to thank you very much for being on Straight Talk because this means the world to me. Thank
Thank
you
you
so
for
much.
having me.
Thank you. Guys, I want to thank you guys so much for watching and for being a part of this very intimate and amazing conversation. Do not forget to subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to go onto our website at straighttalknosugaradded.com. Until next time.